Well, if they were to ever expand upon this world, I think I know what they should call the sequel. Triple. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about a newer release, Duel. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you already saw it, or if you were planning on seeing it, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with more movie-related content like sci-fi reviews on a near-daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's talk about Duel. This stars Karen Gillan as Sarah, who opts for a cloning procedure after she receives a terminal diagnosis. But when she recovers, her attempts to have her clone decommissioned fail, leading to a court-mandated duel to the death. This is written and directed by Riley Stearns, and it initially premiered at Sundance earlier this year, before hitting theaters in April and then VOD in May. And this is Stearns' third film. I haven't seen his debut, Fault, but I really liked his second film, The Art of Self-Defense, especially for the way Stearns balanced this grounded, serious story with some pitch-black comedy with a deadpan sense of humor. And while I can't account for if it's the same style in Fault, it does seem to be the style he's generally going for with each of his films, as that's present all throughout this. While this is considered a sci-fi film for its use of cloning, it's also presented in a fairly minimalist way, with rarely any big, flashy setups or grandiose camera angles. The closest we get to that are really only scenes involving the originals and their clones duking it out, and those are only a very small part of the film. But otherwise, this has a pretty muted aesthetic, typically consisting of a lot of wider and medium shots that stay at eye level and an overall dark color palette to still give this world a pretty bleak feel. But at the same time, it's also filled with a lot of deadpan humor that seems to be Stearns' bread and butter. It's a style I can definitely see not being for everyone. A lot of the funniest bits are these seemingly throwaway lines that will be injected in the middle of a serious conversation. They're the type that you'll either have a delayed reaction to them, or you feel you need to rewind for a minute so you can hear again what they say. They're not always necessarily the most laugh-out-loud hilarious lines, but I think they work for the most part, and were inserted at the right moment. Like, you'll have scenes where Sarah's talking about how she's going to die, but the way she's saying she doesn't want to, it almost sounds like she's going through a minor inconvenience or something, and I thought that was quite amusing. Now, you might hear some people say the two styles don't go together, but I thought it was a nice touch, as it shows that even in the bleakest of times, it doesn't take away from our quirks, our little hang-ups, and the way we sometimes make a big deal out of the smallest things. Even though a lot of characters speak in this sometimes monotonous, expressionless way, it still in a way captures the intricacies of humanity. And while the film's called Duel, and it's a play on the fact that originals and clones battle to the death, that's also not the film's focal point, as it looks to capture most of the little nuances and awkward interactions we tend to have. And I think Karen Gillan fit that style well, as she was solid in both of her roles. Now, I heard some people say that the original Sarah isn't all that likable, and that kind of brought the movie down for them. And while I don't think she's one of the most absolutely compelling characters out there, I wouldn't say she's someone I found to be insufferable or unlikable. We see she doesn't have the most fulfilling of relationships, both with her boyfriend and her mother, and she's clearly depressed and doesn't exactly live her life to the fullest or anything. But I never thought that amounted to anything unlikable. She's definitely naive, and sometimes she doesn't make the most well-thought-out decisions, and I think there was some room to expand a little more on her character, but she did nothing to the point of groan-inducing. If anything, I found her double to be a clearly more unlikable character. While the film explores the notions of agency over one's life, such as how the double immediately asserts herself as her own person as soon as she's made, you can get a clear sense right away of how despicable she has the potential to be. She might have the same awkward, monotonous delivery that Sarah has, but she's clearly going to enjoy replacing Sarah, and she kind of views her as someone inferior. And I thought the rivalry that results between the two was an interesting dynamic to explore, especially in the way it's set against themes regarding the more existential parts of life. You also have Aaron Paul in a role that reminded me of a much less toxic version of the sensei from The Art of Self-Defense, as he's this instructor who teaches Sarah how to duel over the course of a year. And similar to Gillan, Aaron Paul fits right into the style of Stearns' deadpan sense of humor quite nicely, as he's trying to give a lot of these intimidating, foreboding lessons to Sarah as a way to motivate her, but what happens is some of the lessons end up being bizarre, or it'll seem like they go way off course. Like, there's one instance where he has her watch an old movie as part of her lessons, though the two will get into tangents regarding the production values of the film, rather than anything that actually relates to Sarah's training. Plus, there's a line of dialogue set up by him upon on one of the first times we see him that we know is clearly not going to be what we think it's going to be, and we do get a payoff to that, and that eventual payoff ends up being one of the better jokes in the movie. And I think Stearns does a solid enough job of paying off most of what he sets up here. Though I think when it comes to the ending, that will be one of the more divisive aspects of the movie, as it might not necessarily go in the direction that you think it would, and I obviously won't get into spoilers here, but all I'll say is I think it'll be one that I can see some people not appreciating. So while I think there are aspects of it that could have been handled better, I did ultimately like what Stearns was getting at with going in the direction he went with. It once again tied into the film's overall themes regarding the more existential parts of life, and it fits within this bleak world that was established from the start. It might not be the ending everyone expected it to be, and it might make or break the movie for them, but I think it worked enough for what the film was ultimately trying to go for. Duel is another solid effort from Riley Stearns, even if not always the smoothest ride. While I would have liked to explore our protagonist just a bit more, and I don't think the muted style will be for everyone, I still liked its blending of a bleak sci-fi world that has this sense of existentialism to it, along with some of Riley Stearns' amusing deadpan sense of humor. Anchored by two great performances from Karen Gillan, along with a solid supporting role from Aaron Paul, I thought this was worth the watch. Duel gets a 7.5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see Duel, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like this film's sense of humor, and what's your favorite Karen Gillan movie? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.